For the years we've been playing Apocalypse Rising, we've all been wondering, how has the apocalypse actually started? Or probably more, how have all the hacks started? Or why Bandites can't branch off to new content? But besides all that, the main question is, what is the story behind Apocalypse Rising? We haven't actually had much story in the game for the amount of time it's been out, and all we know is some company named Trinity, which always reminds me of the Call of Duty's Treyarch, started the apocalypse and with some monster named Patient Zero. But how did they manage to do it? And that's what Apop 2's story will hopefully try to explain. Now, we do have a bit of story in Apocalypse Rising 1, and all we know really is that some company named Trinity, which is a military/science company, actually were the ones who started the apocalypse, but some of the deeper questions are, how did they do it and why did they do it? Now, I know a lot of Roblox games don't actually really have any story in them, and they just tell you to go play the game and go buy some DevX products and give them some money. But personally, I love story-driven games, and in Apocalypse Rising, we at least have some story, but mostly through the game's blood writing on walls, pointing fingers at Trinity, and being scared of Patient Zero, who looks like Squidward inked himself. But that doesn't really give us a lot of information on the story of Apocalypse Rising. For those who don't know, there also used to be lootable and readable journal pieces in the game. You would randomly stumble across them, and you would be able to loot them and read them. They're no longer in the game anymore, but you could find Google images on them, or go to the classic old Apocalypse Rising wiki and check them out there. But all these writings in these journals only really gave perspectives of survivors, and a lot of them didn't really make much sense, but only gave brief stories of all the survivors, and not really the overall apocalypse. And two scary things that were in the game, and still kinda are, besides them being very buggy and not really working anymore, were Subject 3 and Amend, in Patient Zero in Reimagined and Reborn. Now, personally, I don't know if these two creatures were the same. I don't know if Patient Zero and Subject 3 were meant to be the same thing, or are there two different creatures? But I do know that one only showed up at night in the Amend Forest bunker, and the other would randomly appear near you in Kin Reimagine and teleport you to Kin Hospital. And there's also a time where you could go into Kin and flick off the lights, and then go into Union at a certain time, and then in Kin Union, there would be a bunch of red lights, and it'd get really scary, and then the Patient Zero would teleport around you, and then send you back to the Kin Hospital. So, that was some pretty scary stuff. But what could actually be in the Amend Forest, and what's so big about the Kin Hospital to have to do with anything about Patient Zero or Subject 3? Honestly, the bunker, I'm not really sure what that could have been, but the hospital in Kin where Patient Zero teleports you was maybe originally where Patient Zero was taken before becoming the ugly thing he is with his tentacles and all that. So maybe he was a normal human, and that's where he used to get medical help, or got medical help whenever the apocalypse was just starting. And another big question is, did Trinity purposely make Patient Zero, or was he an accident? Or what is his purpose anyways? Patient Zero never actually killed the player unless the player would shoot at him, or when the player had low health and Patient Zero would teleport him to the Kin Hospital, then the player would die. But besides that, Patient Zero never actually killed you unless you were already low on health or you shot at him. So he would always take you to the hospital. And normally hospitals in games are good things, because in the apocalypse you do need good supplies, and you need to heal, and you need medical, whatever. So being taken to the hospital would probably be a good thing. So was Patient Zero actually supposed to be a bad guy, or is he actually trying to help survivors in a way but just couldn't because he's some creature? I'm not really sure if Dual Point even really thought about the story that far ahead when developing Apocalypse Rising 1. They did change the maps a lot and all that, but I don't know if they're really thinking about story yet. But I do know for sure in Apocalypse Rising 2, they are focusing on the story, and they are thinking about the story while they're developing it. And one little bonus thing too is, if you actually play the radio at Trinity Corp, you'll get some scary broadcast sounding thing. And you would hear Morse code that translates to, "We are no longer alive. Stop. This message will play every hour if operators are no longer responsive. Stop message. Unable to quarantine subject change. Stop message." We don't have a lot of information again, but these are some basic things that Guzmanak added in Apocalypse Rising to kind of give the game a brief story and background of the game. And with Apocalypse Rising 2 being developed, he always has talked about a more narrative-based story being implemented into the game. Guzmanek also recently tweeted, "So one of APOC 2's contractors is nearly finished with one of the unique locations for the map, and it just occurred to me that we can't actually add it into the alpha because it's a massive hint for the game's narrative. Nobody likes spoilers, and I'm trying to take this seriously." He also continues to say, "There's actually a lot of content I have planned that is specifically designed to support the narrative. If you don't think APOC 2 looks apocalyptic enough, you should know that those kind of details probably won't be added until right before the free release." So, we will be getting more detailed and apocalyptic looking buildings, but for now we have some more basic stuff, and we'll have to figure out more of that stuff whenever the story is added into the game as well. But with all this being said and other information you can find posted on the Reddit of APOC 2's story, we'll definitely be having story-based questions answered once all those things come out. And also, if you look back at the tweet, Guzmanek actually said, again, "It just occurred to me that we can't actually add it into the alpha because it's a massive hint for the game's narrative." And personally, I feel like this might be a new Trinity HQ building or a new Trinity location with a lot of story, all inside and outside of it. But I'm not sure 100% yet, but that's what it sounds like it might be. And besides that, if you didn't know, it's been stated before that Apocalypse Rising takes place in an alternate universe somewhere in the 80s or the 90s. This doesn't really make much sense because a lot of the weapons in APOC weren't in the 80s or 90s. But for all we know, the story could be something crazy like Call of Duty Zombies, where they have different weapons from different time zones, but we'll just have to wait and see. In conclusion though, Apocalypse Rising hasn't really been a hugely story-based game, but Apocalypse Rising 2 will definitely change that direction, and will most likely explain a lot of the unexplained Apocalypse Rising 1 left behind. So tell me in the comments, are you big into stories? Are you someone who will be checking out Apocalypse Rising 2 for the story aspects of the game? And anyways, if you did enjoy this video though, be sure to leave a like on it and subscribe for more videos like this one, more Roblox content, all that good stuff. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this story-based Apocalypse Rising video, and I'll see you guys in the next video. So, goodbye.